decreased. The expected wind has decreased tremendously as well. The primary concern that we have now is flooding in low-lying areas in extreme southeast Louisiana because of storm surge. And high tide is right now, and we know that water, for example, is a problem with storm surge in Grand Isle coming from the bay side, but also in St. Bernard Parish and a few other places as well. But all in all, we'll take the storm as she is rather than the one that was forecasted a couple of days ago. A total of 404 floodgates in the coastal zone, up from 294, have been closed as of this morning. All hurricane risk reduction structures in the greater New Orleans area are performing as expected. The Coastal Protection and Restoration Authority is assisting St. Bernard Parish with flood fighting efforts in the Delacroix area. They're working to sandbag Highway 300 along the bayou, and they're actively pumping down the canals in the event that the highway is overtopped. As I mentioned, Grand Isle is getting water from the back or the north side of the island. The CPRA has 2 pumps on the island that are staged on high ground and another 9 pumps staged nearby, which will be delivered as soon as the mayor calls for them. The bad news for our neighbors in Mississippi and Alabama is that Sally is very slow moving, and she has turned and set her sights on the Mississippi and Alabama Gulf Coast. She won't make landfall until sometime tomorrow. So she's a very slow moving storm that's going to drop a lot of rain, have significant storm surge on the Gulf Coast there, and she has 80-mile-per-hour sustained winds. I don't believe that the current forecast anticipates that the storm will strengthen beyond the Category 1. So as we are able, we're transitioning our focus to doing what we can to help our neighbors in Mississippi and Alabama, in addition to continuing Hurricane Laura recovery efforts and making sure that we resume all of our COVID testing and other COVID-related activities. I did have the opportunity this morning to speak with Governor Kay Ivey of Alabama and conveyed to her the same message that I gave to the Mississippi governor yesterday, Tate Reeves, and that is that we stand ready to assist. And in fact, some of the federal search and rescue assets that FEMA brought into Louisiana have already been directed to Anniston, Alabama, to help with any search and rescue that will need to happen there. Tomorrow, all of the state offices closed because of Sally will be reopened. There will only be 3 parishes with state office closures tomorrow. All relate back to Hurricane Laura and principally remain closed because of continued power outages, but those are Beauregard, Calcasieu, and Cameron parishes. GOSEP has put in a request to extend registration for the Blue Roof program until the end of the month. I encourage everyone who is eligible to take advantage of this program and don't assume that the extension will be granted. Right now, the program is authorized through September the 21st. And so there are several parishes where residents are eligible for the Blue Roof. I'm going to name those parishes. They are Allen, Beauregard, Calcasieu, Cameron, Jefferson Davis, and Vernon. So if you're a homeowner there and you've got roof damage, please make sure you take advantage of this program. Again, we hope it will be extended till September the 30th, where right now September 21st is the deadline. Call 888-766-3258 in order to register. That's 888-ROOF-BLUE, B-O-U. Today, the Ag Center reported that they estimate ag and forestry losses related to Hurricane Laura exceed $1.6 billion. That is a significant total. This is one of the costliest storms to agriculture that we have had as a result of that damage estimate. About $525 million of that total is estimated damages to Louisiana's farmers, crop damage. The rest, about $1.1 billion, is estimated losses for the timber industry due to damaged acreage of timber to varying degrees from southwest Louisiana all the way up to the northeastern parts of the state. more than 750,000 acres in total. As of this morning, we have 12,537 individuals being sheltered in the state from Hurricane Laura. The vast majority of these are sheltered in the New Orleans area. All are non-congregant, except for just a handful in the Alexandria mega shelter, and they only stay there until they can be transitioned into a non-congregant shelter. Additionally, there are about 5,300 individuals sheltering in Texas still, and Texas officials have begun consolidating the hotels where Louisianans can continue to shelter through the resident transition process. So Louisiana residents in Texas who still need shelter are asked to call 1-888-991-5229. That's 1-888-991-5229. And they will be asked for their parish of residence and maybe more specific addresses for their residences, and they'll be allowed to register for continued sheltering if they are eligible. Anyone not eligible for continued sheltering and who can return home, meaning they don't have major damages to their home and basic services like water and sewer have been restored, they are being asked to do that, to come on back to Louisiana at this point. But if you're in Texas and you're from one of these heavily damaged areas and you're not eligible to return, please make sure that you call 1-888-991-5229 to register for continued non-congregant sheltering in hotels there in Texas. The American Red Cross, DCFS, FEMA, HUD, and the Louisiana Housing Authority and other partners are working with families and individuals who need help to recover to determine both short and long-term housing options. DCFS is now taking DSNAP applications for the first 9 of 18 parishes who have been approved. I will remind you, this is a virtual DSNAP process. First time we've done this in Louisiana, but it makes tremendous sense for a couple of reasons. We've got the 5,300 or so people in Texas who may be eligible for nutrition assistance through DSNAP, and they don't have to come back to Louisiana to a fixed site in order to apply, but also because of COVID, it's very helpful that individuals can apply without having to go to a fixed site. It also allows us to use our state police officers and National Guardsmen to continue to do other missions as well, as opposed to working those sites with DCFS. With this virtual DSNAP, the individuals who are eligible are from the 9 Phase 1 parishes presently, and they include Acadia, Allen, Beauregard, Calcasieu, Cameron, Jefferson Davis, Rapides, Vermilion, and Vernon parishes. And today and tomorrow, everyone, regardless of the first letter of their last name, can call in order to apply for DSNAP. And the number to call is 1-888-LA-HELP-U. They can call between 7:30 a.m. and 6:30 p.m. Thus far, more than 21,500 households have applied, and more than $7.2 million in DSNAP benefits have been issued. And I'd remind everybody that if you pre-registered, that's great, but you still have to call in and actually apply to make sure that you are eligible, and so that if you are eligible, that you will get your card. So don't wait thinking that they're going to call you because you registered. You still have to call in order to apply. And you can get more information on DSNAP at dcfs.la.gov/DSNAP. Moving to COVID now, today we're reporting 426 new cases of COVID-19 in Louisiana on 12,659 new tests. Unfortunately, we're also reporting 26 additional deaths today. That brings the number of deaths to 5,108. There are 3 new hospitalizations today for a total of 667, and the number of people on ventilators has dropped by 6 to 99. That's the first time in 2 weeks we've had an increase in the number of people hospitalized, although it was a very small increase of 3, and obviously we're concerned about that because we're getting close to that 2 weeks after the Labor Day activities, and we're hopeful that we don't see the kind of surge that we saw after Memorial Day, and certainly one day does not a trend make, but that's something that we're watching very, very carefully. I will tell you that there's still obviously a lot of COVID in Louisiana, and a number of individuals still in the hospital and so forth. So we do encourage everyone to make sure that you adhere to the restrictions, adhere to the mitigation measures, and that is wear a mask or other face covering, wash your hands frequently, stay home when you're sick, and be physically distanced from individuals who are not part of your household. And also make sure that we're more careful with the vulnerable, and I want the vulnerable to make sure that they're exercising caution. So if you're 65 or older, or if you have those conditions, those health preconditions that make you more vulnerable, please be mindful of that. So at this time, we're going to pause and take a few questions, and then we'll wrap up. Yes, sir.
Governor, for somebody that might have tuned in Sunday and then see how things turned out today, is there anything you can tell them other than you go with the best of information you have at the time and then just hope for the best?
Well, certainly you always use the National Weather Service forecast. And that forecast became much more dire on Saturday for us, and that continued really through Sunday morning. It was the subsequent forecast revisions after that started moving the storm to the east, and quite frankly, we're thankful for that. And because we know it's a slow-moving storm that's going to drop a lot of rain, push a lot of storm surge, and of course the wind damage is also to be expected because it does have 80-mile-per-hour sustained winds. So we're thankful for that. Obviously, the information that we are going to impart to people, the decisions we make, are going to be based on the forecast. And so, all of the information that we put forward was the best we had available to us at the time. It's just the facts change sometimes. And you have multiple things that impact a storm in its track. We know we had a high-pressure system over the Tennessee Valley and a very slow-moving storm, and the question became, where would those two things be in relation to one another when they came into contact? And, of course, the National Weather Service does the best job that it can in making these forecasts. But I for one, am thankful, and I know that while we've benefited from the changes over the last 36 hours or so, the states of Mississippi and Alabama did not. And so we're certainly mindful of that, and we're going to do everything we can to help those two states. Any other questions? Okay. Yes, sir.
So there have been reports in the Lake Charles area of apartments and landlords evicting residents because of Hurricane Laura. In a similar way, after Laura, after Katrina, where because of the hurricane, residents be evicted, and then the apartments would renovate and then reselling other tenants.
Mm-hmm.
What would you tell renters or tenants who are dealing with those evictions?
Yeah. Well, obviously, we would hope that they wouldn't do that. I haven't received that report. Assuming it's correct, we obviously don't want to create housing problems for individuals who actually have intact residences that they can live in, and that certainly applies if they're renters and are renting space. And so would ask them obviously not to do that and to honor the contractual obligations that they have with their tenants. And not create a bigger problem than we already have, because the damage there to the housing stock is already extremely substantial. And we also had a number of apartment buildings that were themselves damaged to the point where renters can't live there. Not that they're being evicted in that situation, but they just can't safely live there because of the damage. And so we're trying to find housing solutions. We certainly are not looking to create more housing problems. And so we would ask that those landlords not engage in that. And obviously it's something I'm going to ask people to look into because I have not received that report. Yes. So look, tomorrow I've got my radio show. We won't be scheduling another press conference tomorrow. We will let you know when, if later in the week, we're going to have a press availability. I think we're going to get back to doing press availabilities once or maybe twice a week now, unless something unforeseen happens with respect to Sally or with COVID or whatever. But we're going to try to get back to about a once a week press availability. We'll let you know when that's going to be, but we know it will not be tomorrow because of the radio program. So thank you all for continuing to cover this, and I want to thank all the members of my team who've been working so hard, Chip Klein, General Waddell, Colonel Reeves. Thank you so much, and we will see you all later. And thank you, sir.